Welcome to the Q.A.C. Team podcast series with your host, Charles Luttrell. Our series features leaders and business owners in your community discussing the customer experience, employee satisfaction, and performance improvement. Our series will help share strategic ideas for coaching and mentoring through mystery shopping in a post-pandemic economy. And now here's your host, Charles Luttrell.
Good afternoon, listeners. I am here with Chef Aparicio. Good afternoon, Chef.
Hey, Charles, how are you, man? Carlos here, chef owner in Chingon, Philadelphia.
Good afternoon, sir. How you doing? Good.
Enjoying this beautiful weather.
I know you're busy. I appreciate you taking the time to come on with me. Let's go ahead and get started and tell us who you are and what you do.
Absolutely, man. Well, as any other member of this beautiful from part, I can't.
Nice.
Actually, I'm from New York. The first time I came to the United States, it was in 1994. I was super young, 13 years old.
Oh, wow.
In Brooklyn, New York, 1994. And 5 years later, I decided to move to Philadelphia. Why? Because I never liked New York for some reason. It was too big of a city for me. And I have some relatives living in Philly, and that's how I.
Nice.
And as any other immigrant who comes to the United States, I work myself up from washing dishes and learning to cook, to bake. My forte, it's bake. I'm a pretty good baker, I guess.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, well, I learned it in New York. As I mentioned, I work at a Greek bakery, and they taught me how to do from everything, pretty much, from making cookies, challah bread, and some surekis. That's one of the traditional breads for Greek. So they taught me how to make pretty much anything from wedding cakes, cookies, traditional cheesecakes. And when I decided to move to Philadelphia, I already have the knowledge of, whipping up things and making desserts and things like that. So I ended up working at Budokan back in 2000. But yeah, 2000 was a crazy year for a lot of people, especially for myself. I guess Philly was transforming into what it is now. A lot of restaurants are opening. Back in the day, it was Budokan and Continental.
Okay.
Pretty much it. I came into the city trying to find my future in this city, and I worked myself from being a pastry cook at Budokan, and then over the years I did pretty much everything from bossing tables and running food and learn how to cook, and that's what my story starts in 2000.
And then 2000, that's great. So you talk your history about me here in 94 through 2000. So what made you decide to be a business owner? What was that? Where'd that inspiration come from?
Have our dream, when you learn something, obviously it becomes your what do your dreams and your expectations in life. We don't necessarily, as immigrants, we don't necessarily have the opportunities to well, we do, but we choose not to do them. But I guess it's easy for us to keep learning and pushing ourselves to keep growing in an industry that life puts you on it. Um, Over the years, I was lucky enough to uh, get a job at a company, and I ended up becoming the corporate chef. And I was at some point I was running 12 restaurants with a company that I work until 2019.
That
I
kept you busy, didn't it? 12 restaurants. Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow.
I was running, because my forte was baking, so I was, easy for me to make pizza and pasta.
Hmm.
So I ended up running this company, Savino Hospitality Group, from 2011 until 2019. In 2019, I decided to move on because I wanted to have my own business. I wanted to do my own thing. I was tired of having, honestly, to have a boss and to tell me, don't do this, you got to do this, and you got to make this. And I just felt like all my talents and on all my hard work, it was just getting, tossed to the trash can, because nobody really nobody really understands a chef's mind when they wanted to do things, and our vision and
Yeah, I was going to say it's your creation, right? Your vision. I think every chef inspires to want to give their own, take on what their mind says, what they think a plate should look like. I
abs-
like that.
absolutely. And I guess different chefs, different people have different personalities, and one of the things that has characterizes me is my the way I do things. My
Hmm.
my persona, my the way I treat my employees, the way I talk to people. I'm a people's person. I like
Hmm.
to talk. I always tell my family and friends and people that know me that I'm a bullshitter. Uh, I like to I like to talk to people. You know me. You know that I gonna talk to you for 20 minutes.
Right. That's great.
Um, yeah, and that's my personality, and and
Hmm.
and I feel like every restaurant that I have opened up in the city, I have leave my mark
Uh-huh.
in these places, because I like to I like to put myself 100%. I like to give myself 100% to a place where I take pride of what I do, and the way I do things.
Right.
Yeah, at some point in life, you just wanted to do your own thing, because you have so much. You discover you have so much potential. You have so many things that you can share to the world, to people, and it's such a wonderful thing that when you achieve something and they try your food, and people crave your flavors and what do you do, and that's a joy that you get from you
Absolutely.
know and then you just know that you're not an employee anymore, you're actually an owner. And
Right.
you know
You said it. You said it the best. I find as I do these interviews and then go visit the places and try their food and see their service. You tend to see that chef into everything they do. You know, you feel their inspiration in their plate and their food and the way they do things. And I think that's an amazing thing.
Yeah, I mean, this is, that's what I wanted to showcase at El Chingon. El Chingon,
Mhm.
it's a dream that it didn't happen overnight. You know,
It never
I
does, right? It's never easy, right?
yeah,
Right.
and it's funny. It's like business, and I always tell this to my chefs and my line cooks and people that I work with before. No matter what you do and the way you plan it, the way you thought that it was going to happen 2 years ago, the business is going to run himself the way the business is going to run, because at the end of the day, the business becomes alive, and the business is gonna create his own ambience and his own atmosphere, and
Right.
everything has to be evolved
Right.
within the business.
Right. Absolutely.
You're and we as the chefs and as people, we just are to accomplish this, to help this business to become alive, because at the end of the day, if a business doesn't have any personality, or doesn't some businesses are just dead, so you go into.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's what you put into it. It's your creativity, and how you want things ran. You know, I like.
Hey, listeners, Q.A.C. team here. We interrupt this podcast to offer business owners an opportunity to take advantage of our free business analysis. We will visit your location to assess food quality, timing, customer service, and cleanliness. From the web, visit QACteam.com and click on Free Analysis and Consultation at the top of the page. While you are there, to sponsor a podcast or be featured, click on Feature Me. For mobile users, select from the menu options. We look forward to helping your business grow.
Like that.
Yeah.
So I know we talked a little bit that going back to '94. Um, you've always been into cooking, right? Because my next question would be, why did you choose your industry? And have you always been into cooking and baking? And is that was your passion?
Well, again, as a young kid, when I arrived to New York, we come here to this to find a living, to follow a dream, to try to find opportunities that we don't have back at home, because it's hard
Yeah,
overall. And many people come from different countries and different regions of the planet. We move to places to trying to find ourselves. And back in the day, in 1994, if you don't have any relatives or any family member that can support you, that can say, hey, why don't you go back to school, and I'll pay the bills. And some people, they don't have that luck, so it
yeah.
was.
The opportunity is not there. Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
I follow that.
um it's funny the way it works, because in Mexico, for for many people, for boys, for men, we don't see a kitchen as a career. We don't see ourselves putting you know putting an apron and said, oh, I'm gonna cook today, and hopefully I'm gonna learn how to cook, so eventually this is gonna become my career. We
Right.
watch our mothers, we watch our grandmothers, how to cook, the way they're making their tortillas or meals or breakfast, dinner. And I guess those memories kind of get impregnated on you. And over the time, my my family, my grandmother and my mother, they always cook Mexican food. They always feed us something that, now as a chef, you know as a professional in restaurants and kitchens, I still remember those flavors that I try to replicate, that it will never be replicated, because the way my grandmother was cooking, or the way my mom was making things, is never going to be the same, because we just different people, different tastes, different touches, different. I always tell my cooks that even the way you put salt, it matters. Even the way you put a grain of salt into a piece of meat, and the way you grill it, is going to matter with the flavor. It's never going to be the same me cooking it or someone else, because it always has to be that specific touch, that
Uh-huh.
specific. And yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I guess life kind of throw me into baking. I had to, as a young kid, I had to pay my bills. I had to help my family back in Mexico. Um, and yeah, life kind of just throw me to learn how to bake, and I like it. Growing up in Mexico, my dad had a grocery store, and he sold bread. He sold bread back in the day. There was bakers who came to the store, my dad, and
Mm-hmm.
my dad would buy their bread so he can sell it piece by piece. And so growing up, I was eating a lot of bread as a kid, and
We love bread, right?
we love bread, man. And when I started making all these different kinds of cakes and breads and pastries, I was good at it. I was good
That's
at it. I
great.
was just like, when I was probably 15, 16 years old, I was running the bakery by myself.
Oh,
I was
wow.
able to make wedding cakes and, pastries and bread and all those different kinds of baked goods. And I'm like, oh, I'm good at this.
That's the definition of growing up fast, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So over the years, I just kept expanding my knowledge, and at some point in life, you realize that you need to learn a lot of more things than just the basics.
Right, right.
So the way I learned was by putting myself and working in different restaurants and different kitchens, buying a lot of books. If you ever want to borrow some books, I have a lot. I have plenty of
I
books.
love to read, man. I'll take you up on that.
And that's how I learned. Over the years, I was interested in finding out the way sourdough works, or
Mm-hmm.
the way quick rice bread works, or slow rising, slow fermenting, and everything kind of, once you know the basics and you know the way things work, by putting yourself into reading and trying to figure out what is behind the chemistry of baking or cooking,
Mm-hmm.
that you're capable to understand what marinated does, what pre-fermenting does, what's curing, what's
Mm-hmm.
poaching, and all these different terminologies of different styles of baking or cooking. You just gotta click them. You just gotta connect them into the actual scientific way.
And then you're throwing a lot of trial and error too, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And
That's the fun part about it, right?
at some point in my life, I was so intrigued by all this. How is this possible? By putting sugar and eggs and butter and everything works in a different ways,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I was very curious always. I was very curious about what I was able to do and why. So yeah, over the years, I just teach myself, and I work. I have a lot of friends who I always was curious enough, and I always ask him, "Hey, why is this work that way? Why this terminology? What does it mean? What does it mean to brine something? What does it mean to poach something? What does it mean to?" And over the years, you gain all these experiences from different chefs, from different colleagues, from different
Mm-hmm.
friends, and when the time came, I was 28 years old when I actually put in my hands a big responsibility, and I was able to achieve it. And that's something very, very special that, I helped create the bread program at Park.
Mm-hmm.
It's a French bistro in Center City, very well known.
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to produce 2,000 pounds of dough by myself every single day.
Wow,
For,
that's a
for the
lot.
for the first 6 months, I was the only baker at Park, and me working and putting myself making 2,000 pounds of dough every single day by myself.
And you made it happen.
I made it happen, and I was like, okay, I can do this.
I
I
can
can do
do
whatever
this.
I want.
Yeah.
I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. And over the years, it's funny the way it works, because a lot of chefs, they don't have the knowledge of baking, and a lot of bakers don't have the knowledge of cooking. So for me, it's easy to do both.
So
Um,
you were able to kind of get in there and mix both together and just make it go.
yep, yep, yep.
That's great.
It's
So now
very
this
full.
the concept you have now, the El Chico, that's a fairly new restaurant, right? You've just opened up recently,
Yes, we opened on November 22nd, 2022.
November 22nd. I know it was really recent.
Yeah.
So I know this next question might be kind of loaded to pre and post now, but what kind of challenges do you face with? I know, you were doing great as you were coming through your career, but now that you're on your own, what kind of challenges are you facing with where you're at now?
Well, it's again, you know, it's never easy to open up a restaurant. I guess the biggest challenges are funding.
Yeah, that's a huge one.
Funding is one of the biggest expenses that you have, and you choose to have partners or you choose not to have partners. You can choose to have investors, or you can choose not to have investors. Um, so for me, the first thing I wanted to do before I run a restaurant or run a business, I wanted to be owner of the building. That was
Ah,
that was
okay.
that was the first thing that I put in my on my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I will never open up a business unless I own the building, because mathematically it doesn't make sense for me to pay rent, pay you know o- over the course of 10 years. If you pay $5,000 a month, that's got to be a couple $1 million for 5 years, right? For 10 years. So why would I want
That's
to pay rent when I can own the building?
that's giving money away to somebody else, right?
100%.
Absolutely. Yeah,
And
absolutely. That's smart.
don't get me wrong, a lot of a lot of landlords, they don't care. They just want to see their money. They don't care if something is falling apart, something is, So I was lucky enough to be able to buy the building in 2019, and the biggest challenges that I encounter through the building was, I guess, was it's I don't want to say I don't want to say it wrong. I think I wasn't well educated on how to go through all the paperwork.
Gotcha.
You
That could
know,
be a cumbersome challenge in itself, right?
oh my God, yes,
Oh,
dealing with utility companies, gas, electricity, water, um, permits through the city.
permits, right?
Oh
Yeah.
my God, it's
Jeez.
such a. And don't get me wrong, I get it. The city is always busy, but they're not making it easy for people like me. When you know,
Yes.
I don't have $10,000 to pay a lawyer so the lawyer can do all this work.
We have to figure it out on our own. Yeah.
I have to figure it out ourselves, and they don't make it easier, and they don't care.
And they don't care. Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
And the second challenge is, the funding. The funding that gotta you gotta come up with the money. If you don't have investors, you just gotta come up with the money and pay, and it's not cheap.
Nothing's cheap anymore. It's
Not as
crazy.
cheap anymore, man. Yeah,
Yeah, that is so true.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess it's hard, for small restaurants, individual small restaurants is even harder because um you don't have that network, the support network that a bigger company has.
Mm-hmm.
So, and don't get me wrong, I mean, it's always a challenge. It's always a challenge that, um, and what you put yourself through.
Well,
When
yeah, I mean, I know what you're getting at. Whether you're a corporation or a small business owner, you're still going to have challenges and struggles, and that's just the way of life. But that's one of the things that I like about what I'm doing is, in doing what I'm doing with these interviews. I love helping small businesses. I want to, help get the word out. So hopefully, by you doing this, you'll see some growth in your customer base, just by me helping,
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And
that's,
I
yeah,
mean, that's one of the one of the reasons that we always wanted to put ourselves out there to make people aware that even if you have this small place, you're trying to make something better, or give to your customer something unique, and something out of the box that no one really is doing it. And it's not easy. It's hard.
yeah. Yeah, I think, that's tying that back into what you said earlier, your love of cooking and baking and doing this on your own, the passion that comes out into your foods. You're wanting to give, your patrons a piece of you. These dishes are you as the chef saying, this is what my creations are. Come test them and try them out and tell me how you love them.
Yeah,
That's great.
yeah. But I guess the biggest question is, a lot of people, we're still relatively very brand new. We've been open for 2 months, and people already asking me, "Would you do it again?" Yeah, I'll do it again because now I know how to do it. Yeah,
Because you've already been there, right?
I already did it. I already learned how to do it, and
You're in
it's
the
funny.
storm, man, and here you are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's great.
funny. It's funny because I probably help open up, through my career, probably opening probably 20 restaurants. And they all were very successful restaurants. And, myself, um, I did open a bunch of them as a corporate chef for Zavino Hospitality Group.
Hmm.
Um, but I never really deal with what was behind everything, going through the permits
Right,
and
right.
signing contracts with developers, and
That's a whole
um,
other side of it, right?
that's
That we
a
never
whole
noticed.
completely different thing. And
Right,
hey, I wish I can go back and tell my boss, hey, let me learn how to do all this, so when I open my place, it'll be
right.
easier on me.
That's
You never
great.
you never think of those things, and then when the reality comes, it's like, Jesus Christ, you want to pull your hairs out?
What we have left, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man. Well, I tell you, I can't wait to get up there and try your food. I'll definitely be up there soon. But one last question I wanted to ask you. I know since you've opened up, you know, after COVID, but how's the pandemic changed your business model? Has it affected you in any way since you recently opened?
To be honest, no, because I opened it right. I mean, everything kind of is back to normal. Um, Although COVID kind of pushed me back because I started planning to open up this restaurant early 2020.
Okay.
So literally the day when the city closed down, I was
Hmm.
on my way to City Hall to drop off my blueprints to start the process of getting all the permits.
Right.
So my developer, he and I were talking already for a month, and finally he hands me the package, and he's like, "Here it is. Finally, it's gonna happen. We need to pay these permits. We need to start drop. We need to go to City Hall, LNI, and drop all this paperwork so we can start like the process."
Right.
I was like, "Great. I'll be there Monday morning." Calls me at 10 o'clock in the morning. He's like, "Don't even go. The city just shut down because of COVID."
The city is shut down.
So that kind of pushed everything back until the end of 2020. Um, I guess I was lucky not to open it before COVID, or get it ready and be ready to open up, and then everything shuts down. I will.
Yes, I was going to mention that. I think it's a blessing in disguise, right? I mean, if you would have tried to open it in the middle of it and then you got shut down, this may have never happened, right?
Yep,
I mean,
yep.
you could have not. This could have been a scratch due to COVID, but everything worked out the way it was, and here you are, and you're 2 months in, and you're up and running.
Yeah, yeah. And it's going great. I'm very thankful to all the support that I've been getting, and
Right. That's awesome.
yeah,
I love to hear that.
yeah. There's always going to be challenges. There's always going to be difficulties through running a business. But hey, I think
Sure.
the worst things already happened.
Yeah, I mean, you know, where we get through a pandemic like this, we haven't seen in 100 years. We're on the other side of this, and we're still standing and moving forward. I think we can handle anything now. Let's just keep it moving, right? Move forward. You know. Did I lose you again, Chef? Are you there? Can you hear me? Oh no. All right. So, in closing, how do we find you? What is your address, your restaurant? We find you on social media, just Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah. So our social media, Instagram is at El Chingon Philly.
And I'll put
We
that in the
write
show
off.
notes for us.
What's that?
I'll put that in the show notes for us as well. All the contact and your website, elchigonphilly.com.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Any other thoughts you want to add before we close this up?
Yeah. Well, the address of the restaurant is 1524 South 10th Street. We right off of Passion Avenue.
You've been listening to the Q.A.C. Team podcast with your host, Charles Luttrell. Today, we took you beyond the restaurant table and into the kitchen with leaders and business owners in your community. For more information, visit us at QACteam.com or Facebook and Instagram at QAC.team. Thanks for listening.